Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera Doktor. My name is Arif Aizal bin Muhammad and my trade number is 277359. Right now I'm going to tell you about our introduction. What is forecasting? Forecasting is a technique of estimation by anticipating the future dependent on the after effect of past and previous information. This means that we must use the most recent data or our recent data and information to calculate for the forecasting that we want. Therefore, it's also called statistical analysis. A variety of forecasting methods are available for us depending on the time frame and the existence of the pattern. Forecasting helps us gain valuable insight from the given data, as the data given will be compared based on past and present data. In this report, we are researching the daily stock price of the company from 60 August 2021 to 5th November 2021. Our objective is to find the best way to forecast the daily stock price for the upcoming date, that is 8 November 2021. We have used several techniques and brainstormed the applications of forecasting to calculate.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Syafiq Irfan bin Ahmad. My meeting number is 277581. Okay, to forecast the price on the 8 November 2021, we use 5 techniques, which are moving average, weighted moving average, exponential smoothing, adjusted exponential smoothing, and linear trend line. Okay, for the first technique, we moving average, we use 5 days moving average, and the formula is as this, where the n is equals the number of periods in a moving average, while the di indicate the data in the period. Okay, so we calculate the moving average starting from the 16 August. Then to get the 8 November 2021 price from 5 days moving average, we just substitute the 5 most recent data for the price per stock, and then divide by the number of periods in the moving average, which is 5. Number of periods we use, as it is 5 days moving average. And then, so the price that we get for the moving average is 16 ringgit.
Okay, now for the second technique, we are going to use the weighted moving average. Weighted moving average is quite similar to moving average, it's just that we add weight to the most recent data. The most recent data will have the most weight. We assign the weight by determined by trial and error experiment. We choose the weight that has the smallest error. So for this question, we already choose the weight. The weights are 30% for 5th of November, 25% for 3 of November, 20% for 2 of November, 15% for 1 of November, and 10% for 29 of October. So this is the formula for weighted moving average. We want to forecast for 8 November 2021 by 5-day moving average. So by substituting the value into this formula, we get that the weighted moving average is 15.998.
Okay, hi, my name is Jennifer Ann. My matrix number is 280567. So I'll begin my part by speaking about the forecast. So we'll be forecasting the price on 8 November 2021, and we have been using 5 techniques, which are moving average, weighted moving average, exponential smoothing, adjusted exponential smoothing, and linear trend line. So I'll begin my part by speaking about exponential smoothing. So for the exponential smoothing, we use the trial and error way to determine the value of alpha. The values were counted from 0.1 until 0.9, and we chose the one with the smallest mean squared error, which is 0.9. We chose 0.9 as the alpha value because it is closer to the actual value. The exponential smoothing method uses the formula forecast value plus with the value of 1 equals with the forecast value of alpha multiplied with the actual and subtracting with the forecast value, where alpha is the value between 0.1 and 1. This formula requires the value of actual values and forecast value and value of alpha. Next, we compute the mean squared error by obtaining the forecast errors, squaring them, and then finding the average of the squared numbers. The errors were calculated by subtracting the actual value and forecast value. So in this table, we can see there are multiple columns of price per share and the alpha value from 0.1 and 0.9. So the data continues until the date reaches 5 November 2021. So we'll be forecasting for the date of 8 November 2021. Based on this, we can tell that the alpha value of 0.9 shows the most accurate value and the number that is closer to the actual value. For instance, when the price of share is 15.7, the alpha value of 0.9 shows that the value after computing is 15.69, which is the most accurate value, hence why it is chosen to be used in further calculations. So as we can tell that exponential gives out the most accurate value based on this data. So moving on, we have the forecast accuracy. So what do we mean by forecast accuracy? Well, forecast accuracy, also known as forecast error, is one way to check the quality of our demand forecast. So forecast error is the difference between forecasted and actual values. We would like to keep the forecast error to a minimum value as it shows a more accurate result. So the measures of the forecast errors that I'll be taking over is for the exponential smoothing. So for the mean absolute deviation, how we count is in...
Okay, for the next technique is adjusted exponential smoothing. This is derived from the exponential smoothing, and the formula for the exponential smoothing is as below: ft plus 1 equals to ft plus 1 plus t plus 1, where t is trend factor, t is the trend. So to find the trend, we have this formula: beta equals to ft plus 1 minus ft plus 1 minus beta times with t. The ft plus 1 is the forecast for the period, while the ft is the forecast for the previous period, and tt is the last period trend factor, while beta is the smoothing constant for trend, which the value is between 0 and 1. For the adjusted exponential smoothing, we use the trial and error way to determine the value of beta and use alpha value, which is 0.9. So from the accuracy we made, we choose the MSE accuracy. So the beta values, we choose 0.1 because it has smallest MSE smaller MSE rather than other value. Next, okay, for the exponential, so we exponential smoothing forecast with the alpha 0.9 and beta 0.1. Adjusted forecast for period 56 is for the date 8 November and 2021. Just to find the trend, T56, substitute the values into the formula, and we get a trend is negative 0.0034. After we get the trend, you can proceed to the adjusted exponential smoothing. Then to find the forecast for 8 November 2021, F56 equals to F56 plus T56, and sub the values into the formula, and we get 16 ringgit for the November 2021.
Okay, now for the last technique we are going to use is linear trend line. For the linear trend line, we must first calculate several values first. For the x value, we get that is 28. For the y value, we get 16.06727. And then we substitute into b, and we get the b value is negative 0.000606. Then for the a, we substitute all the value, and we get the value that is 16.08424. Then for forecast the period of 56, we substitute 56 into the formula and we get y equal to 16.0503. Okay, now we continue for the forecast accuracy for the weighted moving average. First, for the mean absolute deviation MAD, the value for the weighted moving average is 0.359. Then, for the mean absolute percentage deviation MAPD, the weighted moving average value is 2.45728%. Then, the mean square error MSE, the value for weighted moving average is 4.22453. And mean absolute percent error MAPE for the weighted moving average is 0.03136. Then for the cumulative error, the weighted moving average cumulative error is 15.243. And lastly, for the average error for weighted moving average is 0.27715.
Okay, next for the accuracy of exponential adjusted exponential smoothing. For the first one, mean absolute deviation, we get 0.0887. Next for the mean absolute percentage deviation, for the adjusted exponential smoothing, we get the 0.5522%. And for the MSE, mean square error, we get 0.0179. Next, for the MAPE, adjusted exponential smoothing, result 0.5502. And for the cumulative error, the sum of forecast error, adjusted exponential smoothing, and the sum of 4.88. And lastly, for the average error, the sum of error divided by the number period 55, total number period 55, result 0.0887.
Okay, now for the forecast accuracy for linear trend line. For the mean absolute deviation MAD, we get the value is 0.191449. And then for the mean absolute percentage deviation MAPD for linear trend line, we get the value is 0.011915%. And then for mean square error MSA for the linear trend line, we get the value is 0.05392. And then for the mean absolute percentage error MAPE for the trend line, linear trend line, we get the value is 1.191666.
Shows that the value after computing is 15.69, which is the most accurate value, hence why it is chosen to be used in further calculations. So as we can tell that exponential gives out the most accurate value based on this data. So moving on, we have the forecast accuracy. So what do we mean by forecast accuracy? Well, forecast accuracy, also known as forecast error, is one way to check the quality of our demand forecast. So forecast error is the difference between forecasted and actual values. We would like to keep the forecast error to a minimum value as it shows a more accurate result. So the measures of the forecast errors that I'll be taking over is for the exponential smoothing. So for the mean absolute deviation, how we count is, in this formula we have to have the total value of demand in period of T subtracting with the forecast in period T, and we will have to divide it by the total number of period. So in this data we have 55 dates, so we have to divide it with the amount that we get. So the total will be 0.0842 for the mean absolute deviation. So moving on, we have mean absolute percentage deviation. It's just that we have to take the values we get from the mean absolute deviation. So we have to get it but in a percentage form. So we will be getting it as 0.5239%. So moving on, we have mean squared error. We calculate it by squaring it, and we will be getting the amount of 0.017. And And for the mean absolute percent error, we have to times it with 100, which is the percentage, and we will be getting amount. And moving on, we will be going to the cumulative error, which is the sum of the forecast errors, and the value will be 4.630. And finally is average error. We'll be getting 0.0842. So in conclusion, after we find the forecast price on 8 November 2021 by using all the techniques above and finding the forecast accuracy for each technique, our group can conclude that exponential smoothing is the best technique to forecast the stock price of Ajinomoto Malaysia by using the alpha value of 0.9. This is because after we measure the forecast accuracy, exponential smoothing gives the least values and it's useful in the long run. The values are also accurate and shows that it gives out the best technique in computing and forecasting values in data. With that being said, we would like to thank our lecturer, Madam Nur Hafiza, for guiding us and showing us the techniques and the method used to apply in this course. Thank you.